Welcome once again to another episode of B&B Hockey Talk around the NHL. I'm Aaron Bloxel with my co-host, Mr. Matt Balzer, who definitely needs a haircut. What do you guys think? Welcome, Matt, to the show. We got lots to cover today as we're getting near the end of the regular season, but why don't we start it off with the 3 stars of the week?
Yeah. So first, I apologize for my voice in advance. I'm dealing with a bit of a cold right now. But the 3rd star of the week from the Arizona Coyotes, Darcy Kemper. He went 2-0-1 with 2 shutouts and a .979 save percentage. He's up to 26-19-8 on the season with a .924 save percentage and 5 shutouts. As he's trying to keep the Coyotes in that playoff picture. The 2nd star of the week from the Detroit Red Wings, Tyler Bertuzzi. In 4 games, he had 3 goals and 10 points, including an OT winner. He's up to 19 goals and 44 points in 70 games, and especially that line going on with him, Anthony Mantha, and Dylan Larkin. Those guys were ripping it up this week. I know Mantha got his first career hat trick yesterday, and Larkin's up to 70 points as well. And the 1st star of the week from the Columbus Blue Jackets, Sergei Bobrovsky, is the 1st star. He went 4-0 with 2 shutouts and a .966 save percentage. He's up to 60 games this year. He's 36-23-1 with a .914 save percentage and 9 shutouts. He's also got 4 shutouts in his last 7 games. And since March 5th, he's 9-2 with a .957 save percentage, only letting in 14 goals on 323 shots against. And now that he's up to 9 shutouts, he ties Yevgeny Nabokov for most shutouts by a Russian-born goalie in NHL history with 9. Nabokov did it in 2003-04.
And, of course, Bobrovsky's team, Columbus, overtook the Carolina Hurricanes in that wild card race in the East, which we'll touch on a little bit into the show. But lots of milestones of players either tying or breaking records. Why don't you get us going on to that category?
All right. So the big one, the grade 8, Alexander Ovechkin got his 50th goal of the season. It's the 8th time he's done it. He is the 3rd oldest player in NHL history to get 50 goals in a season at 33 years and 194 days. The only 2 older players, Jaromir Jagr, who did it in 2006 at 34 years and 37 days. I believe he was playing with the New York Rangers at the time. And all the way back in 1971, Johnny Busick, 35 years and 308 days, did it with, I believe, the Boston Bruins in that year. So just crazy. And, of course, yeah, that was his 8th 50-goal season. Only Mike Bossy and Wayne Gretzky have more with 9. And I think we were talking about before the show, I was looking up Mike Bossy's numbers. Just crazy. He only played 10 seasons in the NHL with the Islanders. But his first 9 years, he had 50 straight goal seasons, including five seasons where he had over 60 goals. I think the most he had was 69. So if you want to go argument-wise, because like with Bossy with his shortened career, you could argue that he's the best goal scorer. But for me, it's still Alexander Ovechkin.
And Mike Bossy was known as a pure goal scorer in his day for sure. But lots of other stuff to cover. Why don't we continue on?
Yeah, so heading to the Los Angeles Kings, they have a few games played ones. Anze Kopitar will be playing in his 1,000th NHL game, which is just crazy to think about. One of the best two-way centers in the NHL. I know he's having a bit of a down year this year, but congrats to him. Jonathan Quick played his 600th career game for a goalie. That's really good. I think he was only like the 50-something goalie in NHL history to reach that mark. And, of course, we touched on it last show, but Dustin Brown set the record for most games played in an LA King jersey with 1,112. We'll go to let's see here. Also back to Ovechkin quickly. I forgot this one. He tied Luc Robitaille for 4th all-time in power play goals. He's now up to 247. The only guy standing in front of him now is Teemu Selanne at 255, Brett Hull at 265, and Dave Anderchuk at 274. To the Columbus Blue Jackets, Cam Atkinson had 2 goals against the Nashville Predators. He got up to 41 goals this season. He tied Rick Nash for the franchise lead in most goals in a season. And also in that game, Artemi Panarin, who's absolutely ripping it up right now, had 4 assists in that game to get up to 83 points this year. And he broke his own record, which he set last year for most points in a season, as he's now up to 83. Another one, Max Domi, he got his 70th point of the season in our game against Winnipeg. He's the first Habs player since Thomas Kanich to get 70 points in a season, and that came in 2009 in 2010 season, which is crazy to think that the Habs haven't had anybody that good in a while. But hey, how you doing, Arizona Coyotes? And then we go to the San Jose Sharks. Brent Burns scored his 14th overtime winning goal, passing Scott Niedermayer for most overtime goals by a defenseman in NHL history. Of course, it's a bit different now with the 3-on-3 overtime, but congrats to Brent Burns there. Also, Alexander Barkov passed the 90-point mark. He's up to 91 points. He became only the 4th Finnish-born player to get 90 or more points in a season. The other ones are Jari Kurri, Teemu Selanne, and Olli Jokinen are the only other ones. And with some other Finns on the rise, like Mikko Rantanen's at 87 points, and I know he's hurt right now, so he may not get there depending on if he's able to get back. And Sebastian Aho is at 82 points this year. So they could have the big three for years to come that could get between that 90 to 100-point mark for years to come.
And don't forget, Patrick Laine could also potentially do that as well.
Yeah, hopefully, because everybody thought he was going to get that 50-goal mark this year, and he's only at 30 this year with some of his struggles. But yeah, he's not the only one struggling there in Winnipeg of late. Also, Victor Arvidsson, he tied the franchise record for most goals in a season. He's up to 33 goals, which I thought that's pretty low for a franchise, but he's done it in only 55 games this year. He's tied with Jason Arnott, who did in 08-09, and Philippe Forsberg, who did in 15-16. So it's safe to say that with Forsberg and Arvidsson being there for years to come, I think they'll smash that record going forward. Another thing that I saw, the Washington Capitals now have 7 20-goal scorers on their team. I think Backstrom was the 7th guy to get there as he got a couple against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And it's just not some of the like Jacob Vrana and Brett Connolly have over 20 goals this year, which especially Connolly surprised me. And then a couple teams clinching playoff spots. We had the New York Islanders clinch a playoff spot. The St. Louis Blues have miraculously come all the way back to clinch a playoff spot. They were dead last in the NHL on January the 3rd, and now they are only 2 points back of first place in the division. They are the first team since the 1997 Ottawa Senators to be in dead last in the NHL to come back to clinch a playoff spot. And yeah, I think that's about it. Otherwise, we have one contract extension that I want to quickly get to with the Arizona Coyotes. They gave Nick Schmaltz a 7-year, $40.95 contract extension with a $5.85 million cap hit. He's been hurt for basically since after playing a few games with the Coyotes, but locking up one of their core pieces there.
A couple of players getting fined this week: Joe Thornton of the San Jose Sharks and Ryan Reeves of the Vegas Golden Knights in an incident. And that leads me to our next point. When those two teams played, there was a lot of hostilities, let's just say, because as of yesterday, that is our first confirmed playoff matchup. It's going to be the San Jose Sharks and the Vegas Golden Knights. What do you see in that potential series, and who are you taking?
Oh, man, I got to go with Vegas right now. I think both teams are actually reeling a little bit. Vegas has lost 5 straight. San Jose's lost like 7 of their last 8 games. Though with Vegas, Marc-Andre Fleury's been dealing with an injury, and he also had the birth of one of his kids during that time. So that's a big loss right there for Vegas. But the thing is that the Sharks, they haven't been getting goaltending all year round. I think Jones and Dell, both of their save percentages are below 900. It's just that is not goaltending that you need to get it done in the playoffs. I know Erik Karlsson's been out for a while, and they're hoping to get him back in the lineup before the end of the regular season and before the playoffs start. So that will be a big boost. But You just can't keep outscoring your problems if your goalie can't keep the puck out of the net. Like, because they got so many weapons up front. Like, I think Timo Meier just got his 30th goal this season. They got 30-goal scorers. Like Thomas Hertl has had a monster year for them this year. Joe Pavelski, and even Jumbo Joe there has had a good resurgent year. Evander Kane's fit in perfectly. Gustav Nyquist, who they brought over, has 20 goals. So, but Vegas, I like their top six, especially with that Stone, Stastny, Pacioretty line, and then Carlson, Marchessault, and Smith have started to really heat up of late. So it's going to be a good physical series, especially with the way that game went. But I have to go Vegas just because if Fleury's back in net, and just with all the experience Vegas has, I got to go with them.
So true or false, Mark Stone will start a fight with Erik Karlsson?
Probably false. Maybe he might pull his hair or something, tell him to get it. But yeah, I can't wait, because especially with some of those guys like Ryan Reeves, he's gonna get in there and just start getting under all those Sharks under their skin, and really start being that huge pest that he is. But and even William Carrier has gone back in the line up there with Vegas as well. So if they really want to,
in Vegas, in San Jose.
Oh man, it's gonna be fun to watch.
If everything goes well tonight for Toronto, who's playing in Long Island, the hostile John Tavares crowd again. That was fun to watch the first time. I'm sure it's going to be just as good, or it's happening just as great this time. But if everything goes well for Toronto there and they walk away with a point or two, they're going to confirm their playoff matchup with the Boston Bruins. Who are you taking in that series?
Oh, I think I have to go with the Bruins in this one. Even though the Bruins have sort of quieted off a little bit, I think they're 5-5 in their last 10 games. But with the way Freddie Anderson has been playing in net, I gotta remember where I wrote this down. Give me stall for me for a minute.
So Freddie Anderson hasn't been playing very good lately. It doesn't help to have that defense that he does have. I'm going to go with San Jose, believe it or not, in the San Jose-Vegas series. I don't think their goaltending is great, but I think their depth is really good. It's going to be interesting, though, because Vegas' depth is definitely improved with adding Stastny, Pacioretty, and Stone to the lineup since last year. So, I mean, having Alex Tuch on your third line doesn't hurt either. I mean, that guy to me is a potential top-line player on some teams that are out there. He's still young, developing. He's got a lot of size. But and then Boston, I would have to take over Toronto as well, only because they seem to be playing the more complete game at this time of the year. And Toronto's had problems with Boston. Let's just put it that way, right? Boston's going to beat them up a little bit and push them around. And I think playoff hockey is a lot different than regular season hockey.
Yeah. So I found my stat. I was trying to remember where I wrote it down. So Freddie Anderson in his last 7 games has a 4.63 goals against average and an 8.57 save percentage. That is not going to get it done. I think he's faced like the most shots in the NHL, if I remember off the top of my head, this year, which doesn't help either. But
No.
But yeah, with the way Boston's going, like Brad Marchand, believe it or not, is only 2 points away from getting to 100 points on the season, and Patrice Bergeron is having the best year of his NHL career. I think he set a new career high in points this year. I think his previous was like 73, and that came in his second year in the league. So if you think how many years he's been playing in the NHL, to have such a renaissance year, or just this continuing to get better over the past few years, is just crazy. And now that Pasternak's back in the lineup too, and I'm a huge Pasternak fan. I can watch that guy play hockey all day.
One of us predicted Bergeron being in the top 10 senders this year.
But I will say I did have David Pastrnak as my top right winger in the NHL this year, which I will gladly take over some other guys. But the one I will always give you a hard time is that you did have Ryan Getzlaf in your top 10 centers going into this season. But
he's struggled a bit this year, and it's not just I know he's had a lot of bad injuries,
Mm.
But I know that his team in general has had a lot of injuries. And when you see some of the wingers he's had to play with this year, I mean, you can see why he's struggling for sure.
Yeah, and even some guys, like I saw, like Rickard Rakell's finally started to heat up. But talk about a guy that's had a huge drop off because he had over 30 goals and close to 70 points, and he only has 18 goals this year. And Corey Perry being hurt at the beginning of the season, and a lot of those guys just having down years.
Kessler's just the shadow of his former self. A couple more playoff battles we wanted to touch on. The wild card race in the East we mentioned earlier. Columbus actually officially passed Carolina last night. They now have 94 points. Carolina has 93. Montreal 92. All three of those teams have 3 games left, and we all know Montreal's got a really tough schedule. What do you think is going to happen here? Do you think Montreal's going to squeeze in, and where are these teams going to fit? You know, who's going to finish where?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I still think it's going to be Columbus and Carolina that gets in. Just to go over the schedules for those remaining teams once again. Columbus faces Boston at home, and then they finish off back-to-back in facing the Rangers and Ottawa on the road. Carolina's at Toronto, and then they are back at home against New Jersey, and then they finish the season off in Philadelphia. And Montreal is facing Tampa Bay at home. Then they play Washington on the road, and then they finish off the season at home against Toronto. So out of those 3 schedules, Carolina and Columbus have the 2 easiest schedules because, like, Montreal picked up a huge win in Winnipeg after that loss to Columbus, which I still think is probably going to be the breaking point or the turning point of making the playoffs this year. It does suck that if they were in the Western Conference, that they would easily be in a playoff spot right now. But the way Columbus has been playing, especially Bobrovsky and net, and their big guns finally heating up. In Carolina, I still think it's like you still wonder if they're going to squeeze in or not. But I like where Mrazek and McElhinney have been playing in goal for them. And hey, you got to get the storm surge going. If you didn't hear, all their choreographed celebrations after their game, they're not doing that anymore. They just went back to doing the original storm surge where they start at the blue line and then they skate to the other end and jump into the glass sort of thing, because I don't even know how they were going to keep topping themselves every week. The basketball.
Another playoff race to watch out for is the Central Division. Winnipeg and Nashville both have 94 points. Winnipeg has 4 games left. Nashville has 3 games left, but St. Louis is at 92 points and only 2 points back, and they're actually beating Colorado tonight so far 1-0. If they win that game tonight and they're all tied at the end of the night, St. Louis will actually be in second. Winnipeg has more row than them. But what do you think is going to happen there? Like, if St. Louis passes Winnipeg and Nashville, we might have a Winnipeg-Nashville first-round series, and St. Louis would be loving that one all the way to the bank.
Yeah, it's sort of crazy. Like Winnipeg, it's like they haven't exactly lived up to like their hype this year. Like they still have all like the big pieces, but it hasn't come together as nicely as it did last season. Like, I know Hellebuck's had a bit of an up and down season. They're 5-5 in their last 10 games. They've lost 3 straight, and even Nashville's sort of been up and down of late as well. Especially with the way Pekka Rinne, it sort of depends on if he gets on a hot streak or not, or maybe even Juicy Saros might push him, as we saw last year in the playoffs where Rinne struggled. But with the way you see,
both those teams have suffered a lot of injuries this year too.
Yeah, so it's like, well, it might just end up coming down to experience, because like I know Jordan Binnington, man, the guy's been so good this year. He's only played 29 games this year, but he's 21-5-1 with a .928 save percentage and 5 shutouts this year. Talk about a guy that's totally turned the Blues season around, and it's sort of like the Andrew Hammond thing with Ottawa a few years ago.
Jordan Binnington Calder candidate?
It's going to be tough just because he's only to get close to like playing like 30-something games. But it is tough because like I still think it'll be Pettersson, Dahlin, and Heiskanen with Dallas. Well, I think they will be my top 3.
Carter Hart and Binnington would be 4-5 in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think Binnington would probably be my 4th. And then you got like a couple other ones like Brady Tkachuk's had a decent year in Ottawa as well. But if you want to go like the big three with like the way Dahlin and Heiskanen, like Dahlin's been putting up the points. I think Heiskanen's up to like 12 goals this year, and both in Heiskanen especially, he's been logging huge minutes in Dallas this year. Same with Dahlin. So. But I still think it's Pettersson's to lose, which I'm happy with being a Canucks fan. But with the way those two D-men have played, it's going to be tough for one of those guys to beat those guys out.
Well, I'm going to let you end the show with one fun stat about Jake Markstrom and your final thoughts as we end today's recording.
All right, yeah. So the last game the Canucks faced against the Dallas Stars went 8 rounds in the shootout, and we had to wait until the 15th shooter for Marcus Granlund to score a goal. But yeah, Markstrom, he stopped all 8 shots in that shootout, and he's up to facing 46 shots in the shootout this year, and he's only led 9 goals. He's faced
spectacular, yeah.
Yeah, the Canucks have been in 11 shootouts this year. Yeah, he's faced the most shots in any shootout of any goalie in shootouts this year with 46. The next closest is Carter Hutton with the Buffalo Sabres. He's only faced 23. So it shows how the crazy difference that makes. And last year the Canucks they didn't even win a shootout last year, and this year they're 6-5 this year. And I think they might have had a couple more wins if the Canucks forwards could actually put the puck in the net, other than like Pettersson and a couple other guys. But yeah, it's crazy to think that Markstrom's faced like the double amount of attempts than any other goalie in the shootout this year, and it just shows. It's just another showing that he's very elite, turning into a very elite goalie in the NHL this year. I think he faced like another 40 shots in that game as well. But man, it's just crazy. But yeah, going into the night, we have 8 games on tonight's schedule. I'll have all the top highlights. For tomorrow's highlights, I have a late night hockey game, sort of like last Tuesday, so I should be able to get most of the highlights out before I have to head. If I don't, then I'll get the rest out on Wednesday before we post our show for our next NHL roundup.
And of course, those highlights will be posted on B&B Hockey Talks Facebook page. Remember to like us there, leave your comments below, or you can watch just the shows on our YouTube channel at B&B Hockey Talk. And as welcome you to comment anytime as well there. Remember to follow us. We're on 3 days a week. Mondays and Wednesdays we do Around the NHL. Fridays we do a special Vancouver Canucks edition. And always comment. Let us know what you want us to talk about. I know we got lots of Toronto fans. We got lots of Chicago fans. We got LA King fans on here. Winnipeg Jet fans. Tell us what you like about your team. And get excited for the Stanley Cup playoffs as they're just around the corner. We're going to see everybody on Wednesday. Have a great week, everyone.